Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, this is the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner, joined as always by Corey Tackman, and we got a lot to talk about, including a down-to-the-wire game in Browerville last night, a Park Region Conference girls basketball clash in Pillager, and the Minnesota Twins agreeing with avoiding arbitration, agreeing to a deal with Joe Ryan. What that means, projecting forward, all that great stuff coming up in today's show. But first, Corey, hey, how are you? Tell us a little bit about Pizza Ranch.
Well, we are closing in on the end of the month at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, which means you're running out of time to enjoy the great deal on their pizza of the month. A large pepperoni pizza is just $12 at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in downtown Wadena. Now, is the pepperoni pizza going away? Absolutely not. Of course not, because it and so many others are always available on the buffet. But if you want to order something for home to bring home for yourself, $12 pizza of the month, a large pepperoni at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in downtown Wadena. Check it out, eat it up, gobble it up, and, enjoy. I was trying to think of a cool tagline and I blew it.
Claim the pizza. That's what we'll go with. Corey, I'm at the home studio today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that. And, just having some heater issues at the house today, which is awesome. Great. It always seems to happen in the coldest time of the year, but the point is we've already told ourselves we're going to go to Pizza Ranch tonight as like that stunk. Let's go get some pizza. We're not cooking tonight.
I was actually going to ask you, what is warmer, the warming lights on the Pizza Ranch buffet or your home right now?
Pass, because it's embarrassing to say the correct answer. No, the Pizza Ranch heat lamps are great. And on top of that, there's pizza underneath there. So that's a win-win.
Sure.
The good news is in my home office here, it's disconnected from the heat system in the house. So it's got like its own, like the heating coils on the floor. So I'm in this room. So it is nice and comfortable. So
yeah, you're not doing the stocking cap for pure aesthetics today.
Yeah, no, this is not performative. This is a combination of I'm cold and also, it's been my hair is a mess. Let's just put it that way. And it was a lot easier to throw this ball cap on.
You are a white pair of Oakley sunglasses away from dropping a diss track, though. I just want you to know.
Look, man, I'm from the 8 Mile. I was putting together those GMC cars. And you know what? I'm going to go find Anthony Mackie and get in a rap battle with him.
Something, mom spaghetti.
Something about Clarence's parents having a real good marriage, all that kind of stuff. There's no halfway crooks. That's what you got to know. There's nothing you can tell me to diss me about myself that I already haven't said. Now, what are you going to do? We've
always said you were a real one, CJ.
A real, we let everybody else fill in the adjective, but yes, a real one.
How was the game last night?
It was great. First of all, I want to talk about the court because that was also really, really cool. Harvey Christensen Court in Browerville. I know we've seen pictures and we've talked about it, and we expected it to turn out really nice. But Corey, I got to tell you, it is just a very, very solid Class A gym. Like everything is just exactly perfect for what Browerville needed. The bleachers on each side go about 6 rows up. There's a few rows of bleachers along the baseline on one side of the gym for a student section. There's the stage, obviously, on the other side of the gym. That's kind of been a trademark of their old gym, and they really wanted to keep it in that new one. And of course, you have the walking track up top, which is great. Can add some extra seating that way. Selfishly, for press, they have like little kind of countertops along each of the sides where you can set up your broadcast. You don't have to wheel in a table. You don't have to do any of that other stuff. It's right there. There's outlets right there. It's a really great setup. And on top of that, you got one scoreboard on each side of the gym, kind of kitty corner from each other, and good scorer's table, really nice looking floor. Really not. You kind of walk right in. There's the gym. There's a little TV next to the concession stand with the huddle feed of the gym. So if you're waiting in line, you can kind of see what's happening. It's overall just a really, really nice gym. It's big, and the walking track makes it look like big and new and all that kind of stuff. But also, there's not a ton of bleachers, and when you're down kind of on the floor, it does feel small and intimate and can get loud and can get fun. And, are they going to be hosting, AAA section title games? No, but they weren't planning on it. They're going to have a really, really nice gym for years to come, and it's just really, really cool it's just really fun to get to see a new gym and see it all come together. So I said it last night on the broadcast, everyone involved over at Browerville should be feel very good about what they've done, because it's really, really nice. I know we have opinions on gyms all the time, Corey, and just a very nice, solid Class A gym.
When you sent a picture last night, or you posted on social media, wherever I saw it, it actually, it reminded me, and forgive me, because I know cross comparison for other area schools, when rivalries and things like that exist, but like the picture that you sent actually reminded me of the Hive in Perham.
Yes.
Actually, on the sidelines in Perham, there's not a lot of bleachers that go up on the sidelines. Their baseline seating is like more than double as high up the wall, but the walking track is there. There's a pretty big wall. Wadena Deer Creek, another example of that, right? I don't know, just the view of it though reminded me of the Yellow Jackets home, that comes with the highest compliments, because we all know what we think about the Hive, which is
there's no big jumbotron in the middle of the court, but I mean, about pretty much everything is the same. Yeah,
sight lines and setup and however it looks great. So I'm looking forward to my first chance at some point in the near, next decade or whatever, to go do a game there.
And on top of that, it was a really, really fun game last night. Section 5A West, we talked about River-Backus second in the section, chasing Nevis. And then, of course, Browerville is in that fourth spot. It goes, I think it's Nevis, then River-Backus, Sabika, Browerville, Bertha Hewitt is kind of that first five in the section this year, in the subsection, I should say. And we saw a really, really fun matchup. Browerville jumped out to a quick lead. Then all of a sudden you saw River-Backus chip their way back and take a lead, and then it was really back and forth. But then at the end of the first half, it looked like Browerville was taking the reins of this game, and they were going to establish that they are the true Tiger team in the section. Maybe in this matchup, there's like 5 Tiger teams in the section, but they were going to show that, hey, we're the true Tiger team tonight. And it was a 10-point lead for Browerville with like 20 seconds to go in halftime. And I don't know why, and maybe this is hindsight, but there was a basket made right as, with like 3 seconds left on the clock in the half, as Browerville was up by 10, and Isaiah Downey put in a basket right as time, 3 seconds left. And it all of a sudden turned it into an 8-point game. Now, I don't know why, but an 8-point deficit feels a lot less than a 10-point deficit at halftime. And then River-Backus started off the second half on an 8-0 run and immediately tied the game right back up, and boom, you were in it. And then as the game kind of went on, you were into that final quarter of play. It was 45-43, River-Backus. 3 minutes to go. We were all tied up at 56. 2 minutes to go. Browerville had a 60-58 lead. They had a 62-61 lead to Browerville with 1 minute to go. And for that bucket to put the Tigers of River-Backus up ahead, once again, Isaiah Downey, he didn't have his height on the program, Corey, but 6'3", just a really long wingspan. And when he got put down, his head down with his left hand to the cup, he was able to really, really make some things happen. And Browerville they played hard, they played good defense. They just couldn't quite reach some of the passes, some of the balls he was able to get to. And you saw that on an inbounds pass. Browerville was pressing, kind of just a man-to-man press, trying to kill some clock and make him earn it. And all of a sudden, Downey just put his foot down, going towards that baseline to get the basketball, and then immediately planted backwards and sprinted to his own basket and caught a beautifully thrown baseball pass, corralled it underneath the left block, and put it up. And guarding him was Aiden Hatchard for Browerville, who did a really nice job and was in perfect position and followed him step for step. But he used that long frame just to corral the ball, put it up, put it in. And then it was a 1-point lead for River-Backus. Browerville called the timeout with 12 seconds left. They had a chance, but then the 8th grader, Carter Eveland, his dad's the first-year head coach there over at River-Backus, able to just get his hand in the passing lane just enough to poke it loose, corrals it in front of the scorer's table, gets fouled, makes one free throw to put his team up by 3. Browerville gets a chance with the basketball, and Riley May had a chance on the left side wing as time expired to tie the game, and it rattled in and out. And that's your ball game. And it was a really, really fun one between River-Backus and Browerville. A note for Browerville, they were missing their top scorer in Jaden Schultz. Yeah, Coach Schuler said he averaged about 20 points a game for them. He was out sick last night. So that was definitely a key factor. But if you're River-Backus, you know, that's the thing I noticed about Browerville, Corey, they're tall. They only have 2 kids that are under, 5'11". And, one of them didn't necessarily have a ton of minutes, but one of their starters is 5'7". Everybody else like 5'11" and bigger. Browerville has some very good height and length and wingspan, and with some younger players too. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on over the next couple of years. But for River-Backus and first-year head coach Micah Eveland, feeling really, really good about where they're at in the section and just kind of putting that program in and adding structure and doing the things they want. So overall, a really, really fun game. 10 wins now in the year for River-Backus already. They have some section opponents coming up at the end of the week. Browerville turns right back around and plays Wadena Deer Creek tonight in Wadena. And that's pretty much the wrap of the game. It was a really, really fun atmosphere, really, really fun game. And now we can move on. So, Corey, you have a game tonight, Park Region Conference girls basketball, and this is the rematch time of the season now.
Yeah, we've made it to the second time through the order. First note is that there's no JV game on this one tonight, so the start time has been moved up. So for Pillager and Henning girls basketball fans, as if you don't already know, this is scheduled for a 6 o'clock start time rather than your stereotypical 7:30. Pillager Huskies host the Henning Hornets. PRC girls Buckets. Just very quickly, some of the basics here. Pillager 8-9 overall. They are 4-5 in PRC play, winners of 2 straight over Moose Lake, Willow River, and Bertha Hewitt. They did have a 5-game losing streak before that, but Pillager is the 9 seed right now in Section 7AA, and I bring that up because after tonight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, so including tonight, 9 games left in the regular season is
crazy
where we're at. So Pillager, if the playoffs were to start today, ranked 82nd according to the QRF, would travel to Aiken. Aiken is 77th. If the playoffs were to start today. Right behind Pillager is International Falls, ranked 91st. These two teams did play earlier in the season. It was a 61-40 victory for Pillager back on December 12th. Henning is 9-8 overall, a better record. But you'll notice the differences in the QRF, especially when we run through the conference standings. 4-5 in the PRC are the Henning Hornets. One win in a row over Long Prairie Gray Eagle just last night, 63-44. Henning is in Section 6A. And CJ, this year, the first year, remember they did it this fall as well. They're ranking them. They're seeding them 1 through 1 million in that section rather than splitting up into subsections. So 19 teams in Section 6A girls basketball. Henning right now is ranked 14th. If the playoffs would start today, they'd go to number 3, Underwood, is how that would work itself out. Ashby just in front of them with a 74 QRF, Henning 81, and then New York Mills follows with an 86 QRF. In the PRC, Monaga is the top team, undefeated, not only in conference play, but overall. 9-0 in the PRC, 15-0 overall, a 92.3 QRF value. Wadena Deer Creek alone at number 2, 8-1. Then New York Mills is third at 5-4. This is where the fun starts to happen. You may have noticed I just said New York Mills behind Henning in the section seedings and QRF. It's very, very close. It's 1.2 point difference. But it's just right within that margin. Then Henning, Bertha Hewitt, and Pillager are each 4-5 in the PRC. So tied in the conference, But again, looking at tonight, Pillager's QRF 47.2, Henning's 40.9. So it's just kind of fun to look at it. When you look at them in order, New York Mills, Henning, then Pillager in the conference standings. But Pillager has the highest QRF of all three of those teams. I just think that's kind of fascinating. Sabika and Verndale round out the PRC. Again, they played about a month and a half ago, a Pillager victory. That game in Henning. They're in Pillager tonight. Early start time, 5:45 pregame, 6 o'clock tip on 105.9 FM, the Superstation K-106, the Superstation K-106 app. Put me in your pocket, I dare you, and WadenaRadio.com.
Yeah, it's always fun, Corey, getting to talk with some of these coaches because you get to talk with them the second time through and you go, hey, did you learn anything in that first time? Do you use anything? Or is it pretty much like we can't use it? And sometimes I think it's a cliche, but I think generally speaking, because we've talked with all these coaches now long enough, and I think we've built a good enough rapport with them that when they say, honestly, it's a completely different team. We played each other like over a month ago. They didn't have so-and-so. We got so-and-so, things like that. So it is a blank slate. So even though game number one happened in a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen that exact same time the way through. So it's always really fun to see those matchups and those rematches and things like that over the course of a season.
Especially these early conference, like when you first turn over the conference, like it was game 4 for Pillager and game 6 for Henning before Christmas when you're trying to feel things out anyway. So now we're into we're approaching February now. And like I said, we're at a little more than a half a dozen games left in the regular season. Like these teams should be clipping at they are who we thought they were kind of pace, to quote Denny Green and to paraphrase Denny Green. So we already know the answer is we are very different than we were back in early December. They are very different than who they were back in early December. It's fun now to find out what those differences are. So I look forward to, just like you said, talking to Coach Stewart, Coach Emter, and figuring out what those differences are, what they've learned about themselves in the meantime, and what's going to be important for them down the stretch with the section playoffs looming.
Exactly. All right, Corey, let's wrap up the show talking with Minnesota Twins baseball news. Pitchers and catchers report in less than a month, only a few weeks away. Twins Fest was over the weekend, so a lot of things as we get ready for the season. But one of the Twins who did not show up to Twins Fest, most notably canceled their appearance, was Joe Ryan. And everybody just kind of raised an eyebrow just because of how he thought he got traded at the deadline. Fox Sports reported erroneously that he was getting traded to the Red Sox, and he honestly thought he got traded. And then the team had to be like, no, we didn't trade you. And of course, there was him making the comments at the end of the season of like, man, how come we didn't try to keep Sonny Gray? Just, again, things that don't really mean anything and are probably just him. Not like these all don't need to connect to a big puzzle piece, but you can certainly connect some dots here. Is there a rift between Joe Ryan and the Twins, especially considering that Joe Ryan and the Twins were going to go to arbitration, one of the only members of the team that didn't settle. So again, in MLB's process, even though Joe Ryan can't hit free agency, he is eligible to get a raise. How much that raise is, the team says one number, Ryan's agent says another. And if they can't agree, it goes to an arbitration where basically the Twins have to get in front of a judge, not like an MLB judge, just like a normal judge, and tell them how much Joe Ryan sucks and shouldn't get paid the number he thinks he should get paid. And teams don't generally like to do that because players come out of there being like, my team hates me. Like, what? They just sat in front of a random dude and said I'm a bum for like an hour. So anyway, that's why you try to avoid them. And the Twins look like they were going to go to it with Joe Ryan over like a $400,000 difference. And it was reported yesterday, according to multiple sources, one of them, Dan Hayes of The Athletic, that the Twins and Joe Ryan avoid arbitration, and he agrees to a $6.2 million deal for 2026. So at the very least, it seems like some of that speculation probably just a little trying to piece together things that aren't there. Ryan is now going to have $6.2 million for 2026, but this is also interesting, Corey. It's a one-year deal with a mutual option for 2027, and it includes a $13 million mutual option for 2027 that if the Twins decided not to opt in, they would have a buyout of $100,000. I guess if either side opts out, according to this. So it takes the base pay from 6.1. Basically, it's an accounting thing to try and move that around. But basically, it's just a little bit of skin in the game for either side if they decide to opt out. And everybody kind of wonders, well, why a mutual option? No team ever agrees to like when there's a mutual option in a contract, rarely do you see people put that together and people go, oh my gosh, Joe Ryan's going to be a free agent next year. That's not quite what that means, Corey. If Joe Ryan decides to opt out of that, basically they just have to go through arbitration again. So it basically just assures Joe Ryan. It's a very good thing for Ryan because he can just opt in and be like, I want 13 million next year. Or if he pitches way better, he can go, I'm going to opt out and let's renegotiate. And the same thing can kind of go for the Twins.
All right. So a bunch of initial thoughts when I see stuff like this. First of all, like the first bona fide, smart, good, I don't like
this is just a classic you took care of business thing.
Common sense, no nonsense. Like the Twins kept Joe Ryan. Well, hallelujah. Some of the other stuff we've liked to joke about what the Twins have done. I'm watching and reading other things on the Twins, and like their roster construction is pretty bad. They got a lot of
confusing.
A lot of slow left-handed hitters in this lineup,
as they do every year for some reason.
So there's some of the roster construction is not great. The point is though, is having Joe Ryan helps hide some of those because your pitching is just going to be good. Your pitching is just good. Your starting pitching, Pablo, Joe, and then you hope Bailey fills in the game. Like whatever. We don't need to go into all of those details. This is just like the first common sense. Good on the Twins for doing this correctly. If they couldn't have done this correctly, shoot them into the sun. Basically, that would
right.
be the main point. Some other things that come from this, in my perspective, and I do have some questions because you are more knowledgeable on how some of this works than I am. Do mutual options, do they travel with the player? For example, if you trade him?
That's good because that was going to be the next thing I was going to lead into is, yeah, honestly, if you're the Twins, you're like, you could just put this in like, yeah, sure, 13 million next year. We're going to trade you at the deadline anyways. So that's somebody else's problem.
And a mutual, like if those options go,
because if you want to use an example, sorry to interrupt you quick, but like Justin Topa, when the Twins traded for him, remember, like, I think it was last year, maybe it was this off season, even the Twins traded for Topa. He had a mutual option and the Twins rejected the mutual option, but that didn't mean he was a free agent. It just meant that the Twins were going to renegotiate his contract or take him to arbitration. So it does travel with the player, as we've seen with Justin Topa.
And I think that, along with the 1 year thing, and maybe that's just an arbitration detail. Like they're pretty much always only a year. I understand that. The points that you made early on about Joe Ryan being upset, thinking he's all those things, like I do think those count. Again, I don't think they make a mountain out of a molehill sort of situation, but they count. I think it matters. I think those sorts of things matter over the course of time. And I mean, it was a smart common sense. You had to do it. Joe Ryan move for the Minnesota Twins. Yes, of course. And for Joe Ryan, yes, of course you want to be a pitcher in Major League Baseball. But like, does anybody realistically think that this situation for the Twins is improving with Joe Ryan included or not?
It depends, because if you're the Twins, I think you're really banking on your starting pitching being good. And I think you're kind of thinking that is going to be the main driver of your success. So you want Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez in the fold as kind of the 1-2 option to anchor your rotation, because the Twins' thoughts of competing this year, obviously you're hoping that you're hitting prospects and Lee and Lewis and Walker Jenkins coming up, Emmanuel Rodriguez. There's a few players you're hoping take that development. Buxton continues this pace, obviously. But this team is going to be driven by its starting pitching. I mean, it can't be driven by its bullpen. They have about 2 guys on a paperclip in there. Its starting pitching is going to be the thing that's going to drive them. And the Twins have, I mean, at least talked like they think that they can at least piece together. And I know we've had the conversation about this many times, but they have, if you ask them internally, they think they have the things to compete for an AL Central with the group that they have now, with the starting pitching they have kind of leading the charge. But there's also that thing of, if the Twins have another bad year and are sellers at the deadline, it would be 100% reasonable to assume that Joe Ryan is getting moved.
I'll be fascinated too because it's a new manager this year. Although I think generally philosophy on how to run an organization,
philosophy-wise, is pretty much the same, but personality might be a little different.
Oh yeah, totally. But if you're going to bank on starting pitching, do you see now? Because we know Rocco's pulling the pitcher after 5 2/3. 5 1/3, 6 like the starting pitcher's not making it to the 7th inning very often. That was just the way it was kind of built. But we know the bullpen stinks. We know that, is this going to be a heavy, like Pablo, you're pitching into the 7th a lot and through the 7th a lot. Joe Ryan, I'll be interested to see if innings for starters, because that's what the organization has decided they have to hope and pray works for them. Does that mean you're just going to run those starters into the ground for better or for worse? I'll be interested in that.
That will be an interesting thing to follow. I'll say we really probably can't judge it until at least May, because teams like to protect their starters in the opening month of the season anyways. That'll be the interesting thing, because I think the Twins do have that. And again, don't just have Ryan and Lopez. They do have Ober, who didn't have a great year last year and is kind of weirdly in a prove-it year this year. But they have Mick Abel. They have Simeon Woods Richardson. They have David Festa. They have Zeb. They have a few of these other guys that they really feel. The Twins really like kind of the depth that they have in 4 through 8 kind of their starting rotation. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out of the fold in that, who does that. But also, don't be surprised if the Twins get overconfident in their bullpen's ability too, and think that they can just kind of figure. They've said, well, we built the bullpen of Jackson, Duran, and Stewart, which they do get credit for building. They also tore it down and think that they could just build it right again, no problem. So that'll be the other interesting thing as the season gets closer, is how much do they rely on a bullpen that is very, 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 very unproven.
Yeah. How many Emilio Pagan 3-run home runs do you need in the 7th inning before you just give up on that and those options kind of all together and be like, this is not ideal, but Pablo, can you get us 2 more outs?
Right.
Or just one more? Can you get us 1 more out and then we can figure it out? Can you get us 2? That? So that's going to be an interesting kind of fascinating watch for the Twins, as what could be a quite depressing year starts to build.
Just don't start 0-9. That's all I ask.
For the love of God. 0-11, whatever it was, that Paul Molitor year was. I mean, at least when that's the case, you can be done.
Right, exactly. I can just kind of watch when I feel like it, and just watch as they got down by 4 runs, changing the channel. There's nothing to, you can watch it when you feel like it. You can pay attention when you feel like it, but it's not like if they're going to lose a game, you're just like, well, it was expected. Yeah.
There's a real chance that if you were like a Twins content creator, this job could be very difficult by mid-June.
Yeah, who would sign up for that? All right, Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. We'll see you tomorrow.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.